Sorry about that interruption. First of all, it's late afternoon here, it's spring, so I was getting cold. I put a jacket on, but that was forced by somebody knocking on my door. So what I was telling you is that you have to consider the combination of extroversion thinking, extroversion feeling, those two. Extroversion thinking being red, extroversion feeling being yellow, and then introversion thinking blue or introversion thinking green when one talks about conflict resolution. So I don't know which one your roommate is, or even which combination you are, but I'll just talk through very quickly. These two introverted energies, these two introverted colors. If somebody's extroverted thinking, they are going to tend to be quite apparently non-emotional. These are the kinds of people who get accused of coming across as cold and aloof. They aren't cold and aloof. They're just observing, analytical, formal, cautious, exacting. But to somebody who doesn't operate from this point of view, it can appear to be aloof and cold, and their approach to conflict is going to be quite similar. They certainly don't want to have a big argument. They don't want to get into a big fight. They're going to be really kind of factual about it, and they're not going to understand why somebody is particularly upset and emotional. Green energy, which is also introverted energy, is the kind of energy that is a combination of introversion feeling. So it's the kind of energy that's really concerned around how people are thinking and how people are feeling. So we'll be anticipating what the roommate or the boyfriend or the wife or whoever the cohabitating person is might be feeling, is worried about what they are thinking about themselves. So they can get quite resentful, and often also don't like necessarily to have conflict, so they will kind of get a bit resentful and start digging heels in, and perhaps even being a bit passive aggressive. And I just want to quickly talk around these two extroverted energies, because if you want to talk about dealing with conflict between extroverted and introverted, you have to be able to recognize behavior. So the red is the extroverted thinking. These people are very direct. They come across to any of the introverted side as sort of overbearing, too confrontational, but in fact they aren't. In the same way that blue energy can come across as aloof but isn't, red energy can come across as quite dominant and challenging and forceful, and these energies will just say it like it is. If they've got something up their nose or they've got something they're worried about, they are just gonna come out with it, and that's gonna seem a bit unnecessary and a bit in your face to these two color energies. Whereas this color energy, which is a combination of extroverted feeling, is very easy-go-lucky. They're probably not really going to even get upset about much. They're so happy-go-lucky, easygoing. They're going to do things that drive these two color energies, particularly this one, over the, drive them insane, and they're not going to find any issue with it. They will get very upset and very offended if somebody calls them out on their behavior, particularly because they don't understand it. So I can send you an email of some tips and tricks of how to best communicate with each of these color energies. But suffice to say that extroverted feeling and introverted thinking are going to have the hardest time communicating with each other. And introverted feeling, extroverted thinking are going to have the hardest time communicating with each other. And these are often the people who find themselves in couples. So what's the name of the game? Well, it's compromise. So ideally, with your roommate, you'll be able to sit them down and have a conversation. There's hundreds of models available. Find any one you like, as long as you understand it. This is a nice, cool color one, and it's everything I say is available to you. but find a lens through which to have the conversation, because it makes it a quite nice, safe behavior. You're not saying to somebody, you are a dominant idiot. You're saying there's a lot of red energy behavior in this apartment right now. So it's a lovely way to have the conversation. But it's also a lovely lens through which to understand preferences of behavior, introversion and extroversion, as well as thinking and feeling. So if you have the combination of extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, living in a flat together, this person is going to constantly feel like this one is saying things really unnecessary, speaking maybe even too loud, too direct. There's no fluff, there's no consideration for feelings. They're just going to be like straight at it. I'm trying to think of like a house-based example. So like, do the dishes, you know, and this person's going to take that as meaning that this person is not considerate of their feelings. Instead of saying, hey, you know, would you mind if you get a chance a little bit later today, would you be able to perhaps do the dishes? Would be the natural preference of this person. So I mean, truly the only solution is for the two people living together to understand that these are the preferences. This one isn't wrong, this one isn't wrong. They're both perfectly legitimate and justified preferences for being in the world, but there needs to be a compromise in two ways. This person needs to understand that when this person speaks directly, they're not trying to be offensive, they're just operating in their natural form. So this person can choose, the introverted feeling person can choose how to feel in response to that. So that's the one level of adaptation. And the second level of adaptation is this person can be aware of how the way they act makes this person feel, so they can adjust. Instead of saying, do the dishes, they could be, hey, Tam, would you mind doing the dishes? And then I would feel great. So there's a two-way adaptation or adjustment that is required for roommates, but for boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, all of that kind of thing. I hope that's been helpful. Thanks.